Hello, and thank you for joining from wherever you are. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever the time is with you. And today's Daf is going to come from the Kohen Bavli and Chullin, and we're doing Daf 22. I'm going to dive straight in. Just finish up the last sentence of the previous Amud. Rabbi Elazar son of Rabbi Shimon says, according to the ordinance, means according to the ordinance that is written with regard to a bird sin offering. Just as there, after the pinching, the priest holds an ohez, the head and the body of the bird, and sprinkles the blood on the altar. So to here, with regard to the bird burnt offering, he holds the head and the body and sprinkles the blood on the altar. So it's saying basically that the ordinance regarding the bird sin offering is the same as regarding the bird burnt offering. The head and the body of the bird is held by the priest, by the Kohen, and then the blood is sprinkled on the altar. The Gemara asked, what is he saying? There's no requirement with regard to a bird sin offering that the priest hold both the head and the body while sprinkling the blood. The Gemara said this is what he's saying. Just as there, with regard to the bird sin offering, when the head is attached and ahuz to the body, the priest sprinkles the blood on the altar. So do here, with regard to the bird burnt offering, when the head is attached to the body, the priest sprinkles the blood on the altar. This is what was cited above in the name of Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon, that one cuts the majority of the two semanim in a burnt offering and not the two semanim in their entirety. I'm not exactly sure what that connection is, but hopefully it will be elucidated more clearly as we go on. The Bride continues. If so, perhaps just as there, in the sin offering, the pinching is performed with the cutting of one simon. So to here, in the burnt offering, the pinching is performed with the cutting of one simon. Okay. To counter, the verse states, and the priest shall bring it, meaning that the burnt offering is sacrificed in a manner different from that of the sin offering, by cutting two simonim. So in the Bride it says that we cut one simon in the burnt and the sin offering. But to contradict that, the verse states the priest shall bring it, meaning that the burnt offering is sacrificed in a manner different to the sin offering by cutting two simonim. So the Bride is saying both simonim, one simon is cut, and the verse is saying the burnt offering is different than the sin offering because two simonim are cut. The Gemara asks, according to the first Tana, we derive that both simonim of a burnt offering must be cut in their entirety from the verse and pinch off his head and burn it on the altar. Why don't the priest shall bring it? It's already said two simonim. So why the additional verse and the priest shall bring it? The Gemara answers, if not for the verse that states and the priest shall bring it, I would say, what is the meaning of according to the ordinance that is stated with regard to the bird burnt offering? It means according to the ordinance of the bird sin offering mentioned in that same passage, in the sense that even a burnt offering, the priest cuts only one simon. And if you would say that one cannot suggest interpretation due to the verse and pinch off his head and burn it on the altar, I would say that perhaps another halacha would be derived from that verse. Just as the burnt offering is atop the altar, so to the pinching is performed atop the altar. Now that the verse of one writes, and the priest shall bring it, indicating that the distinction between the pinching of a bird burnt offering and the pinching of a bird sin offering derive this also from the verse, and pinch off his head and burn it on the altar, i.e. that the body and the head of the bird burnt offering must be completely separated. Okay. The first time in the Bible derives from the analogy between the bird offering and this animal sin offering, that the bird burnt offering is brought only from non-sacred animals and not from an animal purchased with second tithe money, that is sacrificed only during the day, and that the priest sacrificing must do so with his right hand. The Gemara asks, from where do we derive the halacha that an animal sin offering comes only from non-sacred animals? Rav Hissa said that the verse states, and Aaron shall sacrifice the bull of the sin offering that is his, and let's get 16:6-11, from which it's derived the animal must come from his cattle. What does that mean? The hikra of Aaron es par hachatash lo asher lo mishelo, The bull sacrificed by the high priest in Yom Kippur must be purchased from the high priest's own property, as is stated, the bulk of the sin offering that is his. As in the Rambam Sefer Hilchot Avod Hayah in Kippurim 550, but not from the communal property, from his cattle, but not from second tithe property. Master Sheni, second tithe. A tithe is separated after, just to define what a Master Sheni is, a second tithe. The tithe is separated after teruma has been given to the priest. So the first tithe given is teruma, and that's given to the priest, the Levites, yes. Just start again. The Master Sheni is a tithe separated after teruma has been given to the priest, and the third tithe has been given to the Levites. The second tithe is taken during the first, second, fourth, and 50th of the sabbatical cycle, the Shemitah. After the second tithe was separated, it is taken to Jerusalem and eaten there by its owner. If the journey to Jerusalem was long, rendering the transport of the produce there difficult, if the produce became actually impure, it would be redeemed for an equivalent sum of money. If the owner himself redeemed his own produce, he was obligated to add 1/5 of its value to the price of redemption. He then took the money to Jerusalem, where it was spent on food to be eaten within the city walls. The Gemara objects. The halacha that the burnt offering is sacrificed only during the day is derived from the verse, in the day that he commanded children to present their offering, Leviticus 7:38. Not from the halacha of the animal sin offering. The Gemara explains the requirement of sacrificing the burnt offering during the day is not derived from the halacha of the animal sin offering. They are cited in that list incidentally, for no reason, a kedi. What's a kedi? The term means in vain or needlessly. Some hold that there's a contraction of the term kediv, which means falsehood, like the Hebrew kitzav. Others explain it is a contraction of kidehi, which means as it is. In this context, it means that the matter was cited in this manner, although it is superfluous. The Gemara objects. The halacha that a priest performed the service with his right hand is derived from the statement of Rabbi Bar Hana, and as Rabbi Bar Hana said, that Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish said, any place where the terms finger or priesthood are stated with regard to offerings, sacrificial rites of the offering are performed only with the right hand. If it says finger or priesthood, it means that the sacrificial rite is only with the right hand. In the context of burnt offering, the term priest is employed. It is therefore unnecessary to derive the halach from the analogy of the animal sin. The Gemara responds. On the other Tana, the first Tana of the Baita, who derived that the right hand is used from the analogy to the animal sin offering, based on the term according to the ordinance, did not derive from the statement of Rabbi Hana because of his opinion, in order to derive that the right hand must be used. If the verse mentioned only the priesthood, it requires mention of finger for the limitation to apply. If the verse mentions only the term finger, then it does not require the mention of the priesthood as well. With regard to the burnt offering, the priesthood is mentioned, but the word finger is not. Therefore, the halach must be derived from the animal sin offering. It is taught in a brochure that Rabbi Shmuel derived the term according to the ordinance that is written with regard to the burnt offering, that the pinching of the burnt offering is performed at the nape of the neck, as in the bird sin offering. The Gemara asks, and as for the first Tana, Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Shimon, who derived other matters from that term, from where do you derive that pinching of the burnt offering is performed at the nape of the neck? The Gemara answers, they derive pinching that is written with regard to the burnt offering, and pinch off his head in Leviticus 1:15, from pinching that is written with regard to the sin offering, and pinch off his head adjacent to his neck in Leviticus 5:8. Mishnah, Kasher v'soen, it is written with regard to bird offerings, he shall bring his offering of doves or of young pigeons, Leviticus 1:14. The age that is fit for sacrificing doves, mature birds, is unfit for sacrificing pigeons. What does this mean? Kasher v'soen pasul, bivnei yonah v'chulu. Younger doves and older pigeons are unfit for sacrifice on the altar. During the stage at the beginning of the yellowing of the neck plumage, both pigeons and doves are unfit for sacrifice, and that's from the Rambam Sefer Avoda Yochitzu Mizbeach. And some pictures here of pigeons and a turtle dove, tone of Nei Yonah. The pigeon mentioned in the verse is the Columba livia domestica, or domestic pigeon, while the dove mentioned in the verse is the Strapelia tortor, or European turtle, a migratory species from the bird family, Columbidae, that includes doves and pigeons, which is found in empty soil during spring and at the end of the summer. It is smaller, more delicate than the domestic pigeon, and was typically not domesticated. Immature birds. The age that is fit for sacrifice in pigeons is unfit for sacrifice in doves. At the intermediate stage of the beginning of the yellowing of its plumage, C22b, a bird is unfit both as this a pigeon and as that a dove, since it is no longer a fledgling and not yet a mature bird. Interesting. The sages taught a brighter in explaining the Mishnah. Doves, when they are older, are fit for sacrifice. When they are younger, they are unfit. Pigeons, when they are younger, they are fit for sacrifice. When they are older, they are unfit. To explain this, the fundamental distinction between the two types of birds exists because the Torah characterized the pigeons as b'nei yonah, literally meaning offsprings of pigeons, indicating that they are young pigeons. While the Torah characterized as Torah without qualification, others understand that when the Torah mentions doves, the reference is specifically to older birds. The Rambam's Guide to Perplex 346 explains that the Torah insists on younger pigeons and older doves because the meat of doves is tastier when they are older, and the meat of pigeons are tasty when they are younger. Ramban's commentary on the Torah in Leviticus 1:14 explains that the Torah insists on older doves due to their loyalty to their mates, since if their mate dies, they will never mate with another. This represents Jewish people who adhere to God and will not adhere to another god. By contrast, pigeons are jealous, and due to that jealousy, they separate and take other mates. Therefore, God commanded that younger pigeons be sacrificed before they take mates. In addition, younger pigeons contribute to the loving atmosphere in the nest where they are raised. Other esoteric explanation have also been suggested. See the Vacanti on Leviticus 1:14. Said that it is found that which is fit for sacrifice in doves is unfit for sacrifice in pigeons. That which is fit for sacrifice in pigeons is unfit for sacrifice in doves. The sages taught in a brisa with regard to the verse, and he shall bring his offering of doves, of young pigeons, in Leviticus 1:14, that doves are older and not younger. As one might have thought, and couldn't it be derived in a foretory inference, the pigeons were not deemed fit when older, were deemed fit when younger, as the term young pigeons indicates that they are young, Then with regard to doves, which were deemed fit when they are... I'll start that again. If pigeons which are not deemed fit when older were deemed fit when younger, as the terms young pigeon indicated they are young, then with regard to doves which were deemed fit when older, it is not logical that they were deemed fit when younger. Therefore the verse says doves meaning older and not younger. The Bright continues, young pigeons must be younger and not older, as one might have thought, but couldn't this be derived to an foretory inference? If dogs who were not deemed fit when younger were deemed fit when older, then with regard to pigeons which were deemed fit when younger, it is not logical that they were to be deemed fit when older. Therefore the verse says young pigeons meaning older, meaning younger and not older. The Gemara asks, what is the biblical derivation of these matters? Rather said, it is derived from the fact that it is not found that the verse would deviate from the normal right of young doves or pigeons. Rather, the wording of the Torah is always of doves and of young pigeons. Evidently, doves must be older and pigeons must be younger. The Gemara objects, saying so with regard to pigeons, since the Messer woman writes young, this means younger birds, yes, older birds, no. But with regard to doves, if one wishes, let him bring older birds. If he wishes, let him bring younger birds. The Gemara responds, since doves and pigeons are always juxtaposed to one another in the Torah, it is derived that halacha of doves is similar to the halacha of pigeons. Just with regard to pigeons, the halacha is younger birds, yes, older birds. So no, with regard to doves, halacha is older birds, yes, young birds, no. The sages taught in a brayta. One might have thought that all the older doves or all the young pigeons would be fit for sacrifice. Therefore, the verse says of doves and not all doves, of young pigeons and not all young pigeons. It says to exclude birds at the beginning of the yellowing of their neck plumage. What does this mean? When a dove or pigeon is hatched, it is covered with a sparse pale down. After 4 or 5 days, the body of a pigeon begins to be covered with a yellowish down, and the body of a dove with a golden down. At that point, the feathers begin to develop and continue to develop for 2 or 3 days. According to the explanation, the phrase beginning of zihuv does not refer to becoming yellow, but means brightening. As in doves, their plumage a shade slightly different from yellow. It is the reference. If the reference is to those stages of life in the life of a bird, a period of time when young pigeons are fit for sacrifice is extremely limited and spans only the first 4 days of its life. Likewise, according to the understanding taught in